Welcome to the BobbleOn podcast,
where we're committed to providing practical advice and strategies to increase your revenue, unify your team, and create accountability throughout your organization.
Let's go. Season 2.
Episode 15. 15. It's also another way of saying it's just creative.
Very creative.
I've been with a baby for a couple days. I got to be creative as I can be.
It's awesome. You smell good.
Are you
taking a
feeling
shower.
the lights? The lights are really over here. I mean, ZB said lights, camera, action. I feel like the lights are facing me. Do you feel it too?
I feel pretty calm.
I feel hot.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm under the sun.
I love it.
Or it might just be that it's Orange Unity Day here.
That's true.
Which you are doing a great job with. Repping well. You also have the complexion and the hair color that goes well with orange. And this room is accentuating it. But personally, orange does not work with me at all.
Well, there's probably a couch somewhere we can talk more about this another time.
I thought this is the room that we talk about that kind of stuff.
Season 2, episode 15. Maddie is here, well slept.
Yeah.
Parker's doing well. It's good to hear. It's good to see Parker this week.
Yeah.
Glad he's doing well.
Yeah, he's kicking butt.
No kidding.
He's doing all the things that you'd hope him to be doing.
Yeah.
Which isn't a long list, but peeing, pooping, sleeping, eating, crying.
4. Yeah, there's 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you hope he doesn't cry. But, so today we're going to be talking about what successful managers and leaders are doing in this really key component. And the managers and leaders are working with their teams to figure out, like, what's going on here? Something doesn't feel right. And they're trying to work with their teams to create the proper system where employees can shine or employees maybe need to go elsewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Leaders who are dealing with issues, we all have issues, but leaders that are dealing with issues, personnel issues, and how to handle it the right way. Or do we have what we need to make a good decision? And then when we make that decision, how do we confront that employee and have a productive conversation?
I love it. Well, first, I want to hear about your personal best moment of the week. Aura.
I will definitely give that to you. My personal best from the last week was a 2-week pediatric check-in. We met with a pediatrician yesterday morning, and specifically the feedback she gave, which was he's grown a couple inches, he's added a half a pound, he's got all his signs, readings are really good, so Parker's doing well.
Good.
But the one piece of feedback I appreciate the most, because I'm selfish when it comes to this, is that he no longer needs petroleum jelly in his diaper because he's, his circumcision's is repaired, it's healed, and he doesn't need to have that anymore. So now it's just dirty diaper off, clean, and then dry diaper on. I don't have to actually rub it down with petroleum jelly. So that's by far my highlight from the last week.
Just growth in all ways.
Yeah. Hey, efficiency.
There's not a lot of comments you can make after we talk about that.
Yeah.
The circumcision is healed. It's a really big moment, but I don't think we can expand upon the circumcision.
Well, I wouldn't expect that you'd ask questions about it. Yeah. It was successful. He still has it. It worked out well. It's healed. I don't think there's much more we talk about.
I love that, though. That's simple.
In the same sort of tone, but less surgical, he has peed on Sadie twice. He's peed on me once. And I have cleaned almost every diaper. So like the 3 diapers or 4 diapers she's cleaned, and granted she's doing a majority of all the work, breastfeeding and doing everything.
Good asterisks. Very important
asterisks. Very
asterisks.
important in case she's listening. Yeah. But statistically, he's at a very low percentage of peeing on me, which is good.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
You will not keep that up.
Yeah.
I'm shorting that.
Yeah, I have no doubt.
Yeah.
Your personal highlight.
Personal highlights. So frequently, I have talked about Mason in soccer just because it's a new thing lately, and it's been a personal fun thing to talk about. But this particular week, he did something really interesting where, again, to rephrase it, he's 4, almost 4.5, and he's up against like 5.5-year-olds. So they're naturally a little bit bigger, a little stronger, a little better, playing soccer longer. But he didn't score a goal in his little scrimmage this week. And, he wasn't too happy about it. He had a chance and he missed the goal. And he was upset. And he walked up to me, and again, like I've said in the past, in prior he cried and whatever, and in prior he got back up. This time he walked up to me and he said, "Hey, can we stay and practice?" And I was like, "Sure." And KG was there with Emma, and she's like, "All right, we'll hang out for a little bit." And he looked KG and Emma and was like, "No, I want to stay here for a while." We probably practiced for like 45 minutes. We were running all over the place. I was trying to set him up. He was kicking the ball. He was just having a time of his life. He was just trying to figure it out. To see it like click a little bit, I wish I could like pause in that moment and just film the whole thing. It's so cool. It's just so cool to see it. So I hope that aspect stays with him. It's such a cool quality he has.
Yeah.
But he's very into soccer. And what I really like, sorry to keep expanding out, but I really like is he's not complaining about the other kids being bigger or better or stronger. He's just like, I don't have it figured out yet.
Yeah.
And that's
so he's owning it.
It'll take him so much further.
He's taking ownership.
Yeah.
He's not putting blame on others.
No.
That's great.
And the kids are bigger.
Yeah.
They are better.
Right.
But it's fun to work on. It's fun to see him kind of figure it out.
That's and I'm not saying that the coach had anything to do with this because but such a great coaching tip for anyone professionally, but in this case, like I think athletically, for a coach when they see failure in their student and their players, to recommend the solution is practice.
Yeah.
Not like try harder or next time you'll get it, kiddo. Like
no,
you know, it's just practice
because it might not happen.
Yeah.
And I do like, to your point, the coaches. He didn't give the coach a high five because he was crying and he was upset, right? The coach didn't make fun of him for it, or didn't say, "Oh, come on," or didn't whatever. The coach just walked away and kindly did his thing. And Mason and I were talking later and we were practicing a little bit and the coach was cleaning up. And unbeknownst to me, Mason just ran over and gave him a high five and came back. And I was like, that's cool. That's also a really big credit to the coach because the coach wasn't like giving Mason crap for not giving him a high five. He's like, no, the kid's upset.
Right.
Like he's upset at himself. I'm upset at the coach.
Yeah.
Like walk away.
Well,
so
it's good to hear that.
Cool little system.
Yeah, it's good to hear he's having a good experience with soccer.
Yeah, it's fun. I remember soccer was by far my favorite at that age too.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Well, it's good for parents too because you're running around like nonstop as a kid. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to tell you this story. 2 weeks ago, you were out. We went to a playground, and Mason, me, Emma, and KG, and there's this dad there with a kid who may have been 2 years old, like 1.5. He still had the diapers on, like not really like running at all, like barely walking around. Baseball bat in his hand. Dad had a whole bucket of balls, just throwing. The kid was first off lefty, which I know you'd appreciate.
Love that.
Lefty stroking the ball. Matt, I'm saying like 30 yards.
Wow.
Like when the bat went around, he like almost toppled over every time. But he was, and the dad wasn't like just like, dad was a little farther away, overhand.
And this kid was probably like less than 2 years old?
Definitely.
Wow.
Stroking it.
Wow.
And KG, it's funny because Mason and Emma are like on the jungle gym climbing up. KG's under. He's like, Zach, can you help over here? I was like, no, hang on. Let's watching this kid just murder the baseball.
That's awesome.
And I'm gonna film it for you next time.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure he'll be there again because it was definitely like their routine.
Yeah.
Like huge bucket, a paint can, big like you get from Home Depot, bucket of balls. Just
that's awesome.
Yeah. I can just see you being like
young lefty baseball players that had this natural swing that just always looks good.
It's fluid.
It's just fluid, down, up, down, up. It's just such a nice swing. It's So hopefully, either way, Parker's going to learn both swinging from left and right, so that he can choose which one he likes better.
There's a two-part reason for giving that story. One part is I know you'd appreciate it, but part two is now you know you have to beat like a year and 3/4.
1 year, 7 months is what I thought. Yeah, he'll learn how to stand in how many months does it take to stand?
Give or take anywhere from 7 to 12 months. You never know. Yeah.
So bat will be in his hand by 12 months. Either whether he's standing or not. And then I have another 7 months to get to that point.
Work on your core.
All right. So excited for this week because this is a topic that we have personally dealt with and handled incorrectly over the years, especially the early years, G&N, the early years. And then we've also, in the recent years, felt like it's really made us a much better employer to work for. We also talk to BobbleOn clients across the country, and we see it both ways. But we see a lot of really successful leaders, owners, and managers, because managers, this really applies to, handle situations with their employees correctly. And the best way to do that. We also have made a lot of mistakes in the past, so we can dive into a little bit of both.
Yeah. So let's set up the situation. So a situation, let's pick sales. Nice and simple to pick up. So you and I meet, and I'm just like, hey, I don't think Bob's working out, like just flat out not selling. Flat out not selling. I'm thinking this isn't the right job for him.
Yeah.
This is how the typical conversations are going.
Right.
And in the past, as you mentioned, call it 2012, 2013, would have stuck with our gut. Would have looked at it like, yeah, the numbers are down. Like, he's properly trained. That's not the problem. He knows insurance. He knows the system. Just can't sell it, so let's find a better, let's reboot. Now, we have a different process that we see successful managers and leaders go through.
Yeah.
And that's what we're gonna outline today.
Yeah, I think the words that we listen for that are incorrectly used is I think, or I want, or I feel. If the manager or leader is saying, I think this person's not working out, I feel like this person's not working out, that's a red flag right away. So if you catch yourself saying that, you should look inward and say, oh, I shouldn't be using think and feel. How do I now, where do I go to actually get the facts? And
this reminds me of actually, sorry, on the fly, The Office. When Kelly, remember when she manufactured those report cards for Jim and Dwight, and they both couldn't understand why are my customer service why are they so low? They missed out on the bonuses.
Oh, right, 'cause she faked the responses.
Yeah, and now they were just like, this doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. All my clients love me. Or they wouldn't have done that. It turns out they didn't go to her party, and so she was just pissed at them and sabotaged them. Well, that's a dramatic example, but they're way too much using their emotion, right? And we could be saying to ourselves about Bob specifically, I don't know, I don't like the way he doesn't dress up, he doesn't show up on time.
Right.
And just have this natural thing about Bob that we just naturally, in the back of our head, already don't like. And then we get a tiny, 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 tiny bit of feeling that he's not doing his job correctly, and then poof, the idea just spawns.
Yeah.
And then we're in a big problem.
Yeah. I think if people aren't selling like us, sounding like us, acting like us, walking, we're going to naturally think that what they're doing isn't as good as it could be if we believe that we're the manager and we have the answers.
Yeah.
So what we always see successful managers and leaders do is they have the numbers to point to. They have the data to support this quote unquote feeling. If they're not saying I feel I think based off of nothing but my gut, they're saying it because they have the data to support it. They have a weekly scorecard in place that has the data that shows every week Bob agrees to do X.
Yeah, give me an example of what an incorrect judgment of Bob would be with data, where you think data might not apply, and where data might be closer to giving a good feedback system.
Yeah, I think that if Bob's number of policies sold, right, on a weekly basis is low, and you're basing the gut feeling that he shouldn't be part of the organization anymore just on that, you don't have enough. Because it doesn't necessarily account for the leads that might be coming in, assuming Bob's an inside salesperson. Might not account for other external factors or things that are outside of his control, right? What would be really effective if, you're looking at production, whether it's premium, revenue, or policy count, doesn't really matter, but you're also looking at number of proposals Bob has sent out on a weekly basis, or quotes that he's completed, or calls that he's made, or networking meetings he's had, whatever it might be that he can control. And if that data is below the agreements that you've made with Bob, you're onto something.
That is so important to say again. To say it louder for the people in the back. If you're judging only on premium or policies written, just like Matt said, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Yeah. No. I think we don't see a lot of agencies track their production or their metrics weekly. We just don't see it. The successful ones do. They have weekly scorecards. They track their data weekly. Gives them a really good idea week to week of how their agency is doing. But the best of the best of the best, the top 1% agents, are focused on the habits, behaviors, and actions that are controllable. I think that's what you were just alluding to.
Yeah.
What can you control that's going to yield the outcomes you desire? And if everyone's on track with those controllable behaviors, then Bob's doing a good job. The outcome might be not subpar, but you can look to the behaviors and say he's doing a good job.
Perfect. So that gives us a better understanding of, do we have the data? Okay. And another part of the data that we talk about is more the core value-ish type of data. And that's less of a KPI metric, but are we hearing from clients? Are we hearing from referral partners? Are other people on the team complaining about Bob? Is there something else going on about Bob that I need to just kind of perk my ear up and listen to? Now that won't really show up in too many KPIs. You'll see some nasty emails being like, hey, a referral partner will message me like, Matt, Bob was a little rude to a client. Now, if Bob has unbelievably perfect scorecard data than you can dismiss this. You can just chat with Bob. Maybe you want to add a little bit more empathy, slow it down a little bit. But if the data and this start matching, you start building your case.
Yeah, and I think you used a good example before we started rolling, which was if a sports team, if a sports team lets go of a player, and the rest of the team doesn't know why and feel like they're, oh my God, why? Like, why did that happen? Why did Bob, why did we lose our center for our team? I thought Bob was doing a good job. I like the guy and I don't understand why. That's a big issue. That's a problem. Because if you're letting somebody go and everyone sort of understands and knows why and actually feels, they're going to feel good about that because they're like, you know what? Bob wasn't living up to what we were doing. He wasn't coming to work every day with the same enthusiasm, commitment, discipline, respect that we are. So yeah, he's not right for the organization. But if they don't feel that way, and you're just basing it off your own gut, making a flyby decision, you're going to actually disrupt the culture there. The rest of the team isn't going to feel safe, and they're going to feel like,
dead on.
Man, when am I next?
Dead on. And a dramatic example is what happened with Tom Brady a couple of years back. Like, Tom Brady had an awful start to the year. Awful. And anywhere you look, it would talk about, oh, he's old. Oh, he's past his prime. They have, I think it was Jimmy Garoppolo at the time. They had like a great backup that, why don't we give him a shot? Why don't we figure it out? So if you were to only look at the data that is the outcomes, meaning policy sold, premium written, you'd probably look at completion percentage or something like touchdowns or whatever you might want to look at, yards for Tom Brady. I'm not going to pretend like we know. But if they made a rash decision and just said the data isn't matching up to how great he was before and just cut him and put in Jimmy Garoppolo, I bet you throughout the entire organization it'd be like, what did they just do? Why did they let Tom Brady go? He was the best locker room presence. He was here early in the morning. He always picked people up when they were down, blah, 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 and all these other KPIs that they don't know about. So what we see is successful managers, meaning Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft, the head coach and the GM for the team, they probably had conversations and felt Tom Brady's presence. And they just blocked out the noise and they said, yeah, that KPI isn't working too well. But it's Tom Brady. It's Bob. Like, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, we built our core values around this guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just so it's very easy to relate it to sports teams. I agree with you.
So then, let's say that we have the data and it does support. We're looking at the right things, not just the outcomes, but also the behaviors and actions that on a weekly basis Bob can control. He's not living up to the agreements he's made. And we're hearing a little bit of maybe some core value issues. Some people on the team is also saying Bob's not as responsive as he should be. Seems like he's holding up his end of the bargain. This next kind of part of this conversation is, what do we do? Yeah. Right? Like, how do we approach Bob in the way that we should? That we're going to either A, get the most out of Bob moving forward and he's going to thrive in the organization, or B, he's going to move on in the right way.
Yeah, and I think B is a scarier one. And so let's start with that one. So B would be meaning like Bob has to find a new job. This is not working out at the squad. And we need to think that you and I talk about desired result all the time. Well, the desired result is you have an alumni network that supports you. I don't think anyone's gonna be thrilled that you're gonna be letting this person go. Like Bob isn't gonna be excited, but in the back of his head, he probably knows he's not doing the job to his best of his ability, especially if you've had conversations like we talk about. So the goal is to have a strong alumni network. And if you keep that in the back of your head, like how do I have a good alumni network? Well, you should probably have an honest conversation with Bob. You should probably have an honest conversation with Bob. It's like, hey, the agreements are that we have a turnaround time of X, or the agreements are you have to make this many phone calls, or the agreements of this. And, we're not doing that, are we? Like, why aren't you doing this job to the best of your ability? I don't think it's working out here. Have an open, honest conversation. And someone like Bob is going to appreciate that and fight for the job or flight. It's going to be clear.
Yeah, I think that you only have permission to have that conversation if you have the data.
Bingo.
Which goes back to the important, why we started with that. If you're sitting down with a Bob and he knows he's not really working out, you know he's not really working out, but you don't have any data, you don't have any agreements, you just had a job posting and he filled it and then you hope he's gonna do well. It's really challenging to then part ways and have him be someone who's gonna speak kindly and positively about your organization.
No, it's gonna be awful.
But we've never seen it where, and it happens, but we've never seen someone leave the agency because it wasn't working out, yet we had a very positive conversation about, we set agreements and you didn't live up to them, and then go bash the agency.
No.
Because it's not fair. Like, we basically set the agreement, didn't live up to it, not working out, and part ways. And I think that's, people respect that about the leader and the manager. They might not like the fact that they're not employed anymore there, but they respect the fact that.
Big. So you've nailed that part. That part is pretty clear. It's a difficult conversation to have. Always in person, by the way. That maybe not was as clear, but these are conversations in person. Via email is crazy to think about, but again, that might happen. So the second part is we have the data and we might be keeping track of the wrong data. And so we're not accurately judging Bob. So we need to address this conversation with him, take ownership on the fact that the data is improving his worth to the agency, or maybe he has to fix a core value problem because we're hearing from referral partners. And again, honest, open conversation as you just laid out, focused on agreements. And there's one kind of really important thing that you and I see other managers and leaders do. And we talk about how we try to instill this in all of the leadership roles that we fill. It's not just about Bob. It's not just about what Bob has to change. We have to ask the very simple, basic question of, what can I do? What can I do? And when you ask that kind of question, you're always going to get an answer.
Yeah, we've talked about the importance of quarterly meetings in general because it's focused on, first of all, consistent feedback both ways to your employee and employee up. Part of that quarterly meeting and discussion is 3 things that are really working well, that you're doing great, and then one thing that you need to work on. So these conversations are going to be easier if you're having those on a consistent basis. But just like that, in the meeting, you have the authority and permission to talk about what's not working. You're not living up to the agreements and the data shows it. Let's come up with an action plan that in the next 30 days, next 45 days, next 15 days, whatever it might be, gets you back on track. Assuming Bob wants to be here, right? As long as we can get Bob to agree to that action plan, then it's really good to ask what you just said. It's like, what can I do to help you as part of this action plan? Instead of just putting it all on Bob. Because, taking ownership is going to create accountability both ways, and he's probably going to do a better job as a result.
It's actually, not thinking about it out loud, I don't know if I've done a good enough job in the past in this, but it's actually a pretty good question to ask even if someone's leaving. Their choice or yours? Like, that question should just be like automatic for you and I going forward. Yeah, okay, you're taking a job as a clerk at Best Buy. Okay, what can I do to help you? What can I do to help make this transition easy for you? Congrats on finding a new job. Like, I know I myself pointed the finger. I haven't done a good enough job asking that if it's gone poorly. I think I could do a better job of that, but that's just a great question to ask in general. What can I do to help?
Yeah.
Some people might say nothing. Other people might thank you for asking and have a really specific thing. I need this.
A lot of people don't ask that question because they don't want to hear the answer, especially from someone who's leaving who's probably very willing to give that answer. Yeah.
Yeah. What should I be doing?
Right.
Congrats on finding a new job, but like, what should I be doing differently so I don't lose people like you in the future?
Right.
A whole other podcast on that, probably.
Yeah.
But,
No. It's a good point. I'm glad. Hey, that's one of the value of this podcast. You and I can work on our own game. We make improvements ourselves.
Yeah.
But so in general, what we're seeing across the country, the most successful leaders and managers do is if they have to have conversations with employees that are maybe sub-performance from employees, they know they have the data to support it. They know that that employee isn't living up to the agreements that have been set because they've been tracking that and they've been keeping tabs. And then when they do have that conversation, they're trying to create an action plan to curtail that downward spiral and make a better outcome out of a bad situation. And if they don't, and it's time to part ways, they have an open conversation to ask about how they can get better.
I like that. I also like that you use the word curtail.
Yeah.
I like that word.
I love the word. I'm not sure if I used it properly.
I think you nailed it.
All right, thanks.
Curtail.
Yeah.
Word of the day.
Word of the day.
Season 2, episode 15 in the books.
In the books of BobbleOn.
BobbleOn.